language if we could. So it's basically a guided study group. This is not how we would do. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. There you go. Now you can see Will Smith's chart. This is not how we would do an analysis for someone, but rather just a guided connection, communion about somebody's implications with regards to the definition or lack thereof that is there, factoring considerations in for us to contemplate and maybe discuss as well. So identifying priorities, all that fun stuff that we've been doing for the last month or so. So as we begin, I want to invite Selena, if it's correct for you, Selena, to share maybe your questions, recognitions, the things that you want to discuss today with regards to Will.
Hi.
Hi.
So I did take some notes like you asked me to, just to give us context into a bit of the man behind the mask.
Oh, that's a great way of putting it.
Because, while from, I think like the first few episodes of the YouTube, that videos that he put out seem really surface level. Like he's just doing this to get his, physical persona back into shape because that's the way he's always looked. But then he really starts to peel back some layers and you realize that all of the things that he's ever done have been based off of trauma that he experienced as a child. He grew up in a military household where his dad had a temper and a drinking problem. And he was actually beaten for being emotional. So, as an emotional authority, being beaten for having emotional waves, that sounds like crazy, He says that his brother became the fighter, his sister took flight, and that he became a pleaser or an entertainer in order to be able to survive and try to maintain peace in the household. He felt like if his father was happy and laughing, that everyone was safe. And safety tends to be a big thing that he talks about a lot throughout this documentary series. His father told him throughout his childhood, 2 things can happen when I give you a task. You can complete your mission or you can die.
Wow. That's a threat.
Yes. And maybe he meant it like if you don't come, the way he tells the story about how his dad told him to go get a pack of cigarettes and he didn't come home. He went out and played instead. So, I think he was trying to pacify it a little bit, make it a little softer, but hearing that repeatedly as a child. So he develops a mindset that you have to win to remain safe. And what we've seen is that Will, throughout his life, has created a persona where he does nothing but win. He's this larger than life star, and he's got all these awards, but he's doing it because that makes him feel like he's in control, and it makes him feel like he's safe. He talks about going through bouts of starvation and obsessively working out to be perfect. And he calls himself a crowd pleaser and acknowledges that he changes who he is in order to make everyone else happy. I will show you exactly what you want to see. He felt like the abuse that happened in his household was his fault. And he felt like a failure and a coward that he couldn't protect his mother. And that really is where the source of his pain seems to be. And it lingered on into the raising of his own children because it was his fear that he would become his father. And he's also done a few episodes on the Red Table Talk with his wife. And she has talked about there was points in their marriage where her marriage felt like a golden cage, where his family's opinions didn't matter because of the illusion of all that he had given them, that they should be happy with everything that he had given them. Now in his life, he quotes that his eldest son, Trey, got the most ignorant version of himself, that Jaden got Will 2.0, and basically that Willow, his daughter, was the catalyst for his growth. And that catalyst happened when his daughter released a single many years ago called Whip Your Hair. And she was signed on for a 31-day European tour. Now, while I was taking these notes, I went ahead and I found birth times and charts and stuff for his kids. So I'd be happy to share those with you if you want them. But she's a projector. So a 31-day tour for a projector child sounds crazy. And she says, like a few weeks into it, she's like, okay, daddy, I'm done. And he's like, what? No, you can't be done. So she wakes up a few days later and goes in the kitchen. She shaved her head bald. He was like, oh my God, like, what did you do? How could, your song is literally whip your hair back and forth. And she was like, don't you care that I'm done? And he said in that moment that he heard, daddy, don't you care about my feelings? And that was when he discovered feelings and his aversion to them. So I feel like it would be great for us to look at this chart and say, what would we say to a trauma survivor who's trying to heal and grow? I think he's a great example of how the 6-2 profile works, because he experienced his Chiron return at 49 in 2018. So he's over 50 now. And, he's putting out these this memoir that he released in December. He's doing all of these things to try to become more authentic to himself and to allow himself to basically free himself from his own personal pain.
The life purpose being a left angle cross of healing. This is a fascinating story, Selena, and there are not very many people, professional, famous actors or that kind of thing, who will put themselves out there, lay themselves bare, and share that much of their personal lives and stories. So it is a really great chart for us to look at. I imagine we could uncover so much about his life with regards to, the interfacing with the first wife, the second wife, the 3 children, the different stories that are there. And because he's sharing his stories, it's a great opportunity to correlate what we see and examine what is there. So you bring up a really good point. He's in his Chiron return that happened in 2018. So we now see the good conditioning that's absolutely required in order for him to fulfill his life purpose of healing. You can see that it's the cross of the Sphinx. One of the channels there is the prodigal. One of them is also focused recognition of feelings. As you mentioned, he found his feelings again. And, there's this determination now, the energy that he's working with now is different than what he might have grown up with. So let's go back to, I feel like if we have the time and energy maybe to extend this kind of opportunity to look at things over time as we have further classes down the line, connection charts classes, and just actually applying the stuff as people are learning it would be great. So I love your recommendation there. Let's go back to the beginning. So if there's anybody else that has anything else that you want to share with regards to out loud, please just type into the chat, let me know. But for now, let us start to look at examining this human design chart from the perspective of you attempting to fashion statements, advice, guidance. If this person were to come to you and ask for some support around what he's going through, what is the first thing that you would attempt to soothe as far as a pain point, some suffering that you've either heard about with regards to what Selena shared in her notes, and thank you so much for that, as well as what we know from the human design body graph? What is our first and most important pain point that we want to address? And how would you share that? And you might want to phrase it as a question. Did you know that? Can you see that? Would it support you if I shared with you? And then what would you talk about? I love that Melanie is sharing the Saturns. Yeah, we know that that is the line of the middleman with regards to, there we go, the sharing of what it's about. Because it's in exactly the fourth line, we know that this is a retrograde. So we know that he's redoing this maturity to bring growth through mediation, or lack of maturity where the power to harmonize distorts mediation and limits growth. So growth is part of the experience of what he's here to share, and where he gets disciplined if he's not obeying his own law. As Selena was talking, Mel kept looking at that, and yeah, that can be a real big pain point. Well, with regards to the not self purpose, what else do you guys see? Ooh, here's Mari. Do you find that you feel the need to prove yourself, prove your value? Yes, absolutely. Big time. Robert is sharing, do you feel you always have to prove yourself? Yeah. Does your mind think that you have to be, and now tell me the primary mental conditioner. Does your mind think that you have to be more courageous? Thank you, Mel. Absolutely. That would be one of the biggest pain points I imagine Will Smith would be likely to identify with. One of the reasons, besides the fact that this is at the top of the hierarchy, he's a single definition, so we go immediately to the heart center. We see that what is grounding for him is there in the G pointed at the heart center. So priority-wise, this would be the first thing, my little ice pick or chisel to break into the not self mind's hold on who he thinks he is. I have to prove that I am more courageous. I have to go first. I have to shock people. I. Yeah. Rather than being who he is for himself in response, this is only pure manifesting generator channel. The not self purpose goes to I have to be first. Doc is sharing. It's okay for you to be extremely sensitive. Yeah, with regards to his sensitivity to the tribe's emotional frequency, one of the things that he's needing to learn in this life to accept, we can see down here, it's part of his truth and transformation and psychology, is that he actually does have the emotional stability to accept conflict. And yet, what I heard, besides what Selena shared a lot of beautiful things that kind of point to this. I've also heard an interview where his wife shared that he whacked her over the head with a newspaper. Like that was part of his way of dealing with whatever it was that was coming out of her mouth, her behavior, just whacked her over the head with a newspaper. Let's see. Selena is sharing, Will, did you know that you are here to have an emotional experience? Yeah, that emotional experience is part of your truth. That your emotional wave is your gauge for what is healthy for you. Yeah, your emotional wave helps you discern whether or not a situation is healthy for you. Melanie is sharing, clearly his father didn't help with his mind constantly telling him to stop being so emotional and grow a pair, quote unquote. I hear you. It's one of the most damaging things that crystallizes the not self. As an emotional being myself, who was also raised by one non-emotional parent and one emotional parent who was very volatile, it wasn't safe as a child to be emotional. And you find that your emotionality tends to get repressed or stuffed because nobody really wants to hear, see, witness that. It triggers other people, it makes things worse, that kind of thing. So as young children, we learn to hide or repress our emotions, not share or express our emotions, which can be very damaging. Robert is sharing, do you ever feel like you are trying to attract attention? Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Trying to distract people away from the pain and suffering, trying to be, the center of attention so that He can help people not be so caught up in that emotional state of whatever anger, frustration, bitterness, disappointment that is coming from all sides. So it's a common thing that I've found with people who are famous actors or comedians, that they tend with an undefined throat, is that they tend to go into that realm in order to protect themselves as children. Make people laugh and then they won't hurt you, right? And Robert saying, wow, big aha for me. Thank you. That was my life. I know you have that same channel with an undefined throat. I'm glad to see that you're recognizing that, Robert. Mel is sharing the telling him not to be emotional just feeds so much into that open 51, growing a pair. Yeah, absolutely. Leading him to initiate instead of waiting to respond. Absolutely. Yeah, acting out of pressure and stress, the confusion, and trying to resolve the pain and suffering that he sees in the world around him. Yeah, one of the things, let's talk a little bit briefly about what this channel can do and what this gate activation can do. Do you guys remember what the 6, its biological correspondence is with regards to the body? And what it can do in a large group of people? We know that this is a large group channel. So what is the 6 like? pH, the aura breaker. He's got the aura breaker channel. Absolutely. And have you ever watched, there's a compilation video, my husband, I told him that we were doing this and he said, have you seen this? And it showed, he showed me a compilation video of him smooching, like on the mouth, long, drawn out kisses that made me feel so uncomfortable, to his younger son, or older son, actually, I think it is. And just getting in there. And that's one of the things that this channel can do, just breaking into other people's aura. Now, it's not that it's correct for you to do so by initiating that, playing the fool, trying to be silly to attract attention. It made me feel so uncomfortable, and my mind screamed, that's inappropriate. But having been somebody who was traumatized sexually as a child, it could be some of my own conditioning, but doing that in front of an audience repeatedly over and over again to attract attention, it just made me feel very uncomfortable, breaking through the aura. Now, the other thing that the 6 can do, one of the things that the 6 is responsible for, it's like a tranquilizer, similar with the 46. It dumbs down or calms down the emotional frequency in a large group of people. So in some respects, that is what this aura can do. This aura, because it's large and enveloping, can pull people in and make them feel better. So he was kind of recognizing his power to do so, not just from a not self place, but that when his emotional wave is stable, because remember what his 6 can do, his truth, transformation, and psychology, he has the emotional stability to accept conflict. That is one of his strong suits. And unconsciously, we see the Uranus has the sensitivity to controls, which may eventually reject intimacy. Now we see that there is a 6 line 3 and there's a 59 line 3. Did you guys hear about his wanting to have open relationships? We know that the 59-3 is a line of promiscuity. So the mental realm with regards to his maturing energy, Mars, is looking to have relationships, sexual relationships, openness. See, where the drive for empowerment through union and intimacy can lead to promiscuity. However, that's the mind. That is not the decision-making process, not the sum totality of the human being in response to emotionally bonding with others through intimacy or otherwise. The most important thing for a 59-6 is their emotionality, their intimacy with themselves. And if he doesn't obey his own law, 59, you can see that we have the extreme swings here. The reason for that is, if we click on it, we see that we have Uranus pulling him into the exaltation, Pluto pulling him into the detriment. And so his personal unconscious law and protection would swing him back and forth between the extremes of shyness, learning about self-imposed barriers in this life. He has the restriction of the sex drive to maintain separateness, body, personal law, rather than the immature energy dynamics of wanting to have sex with everybody. So we can see that we have infertility rooted psychologically or biologically that conditions the drive for separateness. This is important to factor in because in response, his emotional clarity is going to lead him to the swing of the extremes. If he obeys his mind, thinking that he has to, ooh, yummy, let's have sex with this one, let's have an intimate relationship with that one, and he hasn't been invited or asked and not emotionally clear about that, he gets, let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. You know that sex, with regards to intimacy with another human being, there's this drive. He's happens to be straight as far as I can see. It's about the bonding with what is different. I don't know who else, other charts besides Jada, and it was Halle Berry was another one that he was attracted to. But those are two projectors. Yeah. So going after the projectors because the bonding is different, the bonding created definition that was not part of who he was. It was about making more, right? Making more, making babies, bonding with what is different, creates strong offspring. So that being said, I'm going to ask if you were to do a foundation analysis for those of you who are in our analyst training program. Can you recognize how important it would be to take this into account, even though somebody just brought to me the fact that other teachers recommend that we don't necessarily go into non-resonant channels. And for me, right here, even with this, see those, the resonant channel right there, with regards to the 6 there's a 1. Personally, for me, I would not ignore that with regards to describing the energy that is there. Yes, when we have resonance between planetary activations, there is a strong flow of energy. Yeah, we have Mars and we have Uranus. Uranus is, which is going to be eccentric and, break things down. These are both third lines. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error mistakes that are made with regards to intimacy. But can we ignore the deepest truth of this human being? Can we ignore the law and protection? I don't feel that that would be correct for me in a foundation analyst, as a foundation analyst, to ignore this just because it's not resonant with regards to what's going on in this human being. Now, I recognize that teacher, I'm not going to name names, but that teacher told me that, well, if you have a lot of channels, then it's safe to, simply let go of this one or that one. But this is the authoritative channel. I just don't feel it's comfortable for me not to address this person's personal law. We know that the personal law, which is part of what he's working with right now, hey, coming to realizations about the past experiences, that can be ignored. So I don't see any comments or questions from the analysts in training, but I welcome, even if you want to do it privately and not have me publicly say who you are. If you have any thoughts about that, I'm open for discussion. I know that we have a lot of people here today. A lot of people have joined us, and I'm open to conversation about, best practices with regards to analyzing charts. I feel that it is important to have a big picture as well as a granular, precise, detailed look at channels like this, which are very, very complex. Overarching frequency, if you're living your design guide, yeah, we come back to type, strategy, authority. So since I don't have any engagement, let's go back to what is the most important felt sense that you can contribute to Will with regards to him following his own authority, being his own authority, rather than trying to, as we mentioned, prove how courageous he is or attract attention. I have to attract attention. What else do we have? Yeah, so we have a comment. I feel ignoring that law would be a disservice. I do too. Everything inside of me feels uncomfortable with the concept of ignoring somebody's personal law just because it's a two. We can see that it's in the juxtaposition. It's fixed in the extremes. Anytime we see some fixing, whether it be exalted or detriment, remember those are just words of this and that. We see a lot of detriments here, a couple of exalteds. Okay, 3 exalted, 4 exalteds, 5 exalteds. Who's got a lot of fixedness in this design, which shows a lot. You know, even though there's a lot of openness, there's a lot of fixedness, specificity of how this person is designed to operate. Yes, especially Mari is sharing, given his 59.6 is his only channel. Doesn't make sense to ignore gates or planets. So admittedly, when I was confronted by this other teacher, he said, no, this is the exception to the rule. Okay, if there's only one channel. However, we just add one more channel. Maybe he's got this channel up here. You would then ignore the personal law and protection. It would be doing, for me personally, it wouldn't be correct for me. But I'm an emotional projector with a gate of depth. Maybe I'm being too stickly or prickly on what I see with regards to my personal perspective. But for me, you know, you are your own authority, my friends. Each of you, when you become a professional, nobody's going to be looking at your readings and saying, hey, you didn't mention this or that. It has to be in integrity with your own design. So maybe it's cool for you to give superficial readings. Maybe that's part of your gift, you know, and that is what people want from you. They don't want all the details. They get overwhelmed by too much detail. Personally, for me, and I'll show you my little trick that I do. In my foundation analysis that I gave, maybe it's because I was trained at the BG5 Business Institute by a 1-3. Karen Sherwood is a 1-3, you know, very detailed in her processing on how she teaches. But personally, for me, I take the line value and I share what's there. This is shyness. I would not mention that your body has a level of shyness that you need. It's part of your protection, that shyness. It's part of your protection that you wait to be called with regards to the life asking you for your bonding, for your intimacy, for your energy that can penetrate into others, break down barriers to intimacy. But when you pull somebody into your energetic field and they aren't asking, and you see that child, when that child is pulling himself away and feeling very uncomfortable, you can just see it. I can feel it in my body. I'm a feeling cognition person. It quite frankly, perhaps, okay. There once was a man that I walked dogs with. He had this channel. And one night, because he was drunk and he just, his girlfriend had broken up with him, he came into my house. We lived in the countryside. I didn't lock my doors, not great at that. And he jumped into my bed. I didn't think of us as anything more than dog walking partners. He jumped into my bed. I had to kick him out. This is a channel that is responsible for a lot of pressuring others to have sexual relationships. Just go and look at people who have been accused of, you know, going and doing a lot of things that maybe are unsavory to others who don't like to be dominated in that way. So I have some more comments. Thank you for sharing, my friends. I agree. As a 3-5, especially the 1-8 with your seeing in your way, might not jive with others. Yeah. I understand that everybody has their own way. And Melanie is sharing, especially considering he has a second line body, I feel it compounds the necessity. Absolutely. When we see resonance with regards to the body itself, thank you for bringing that point up, we can see that there's a lot of recurring themes in the second lines there. This is 70% of who this person is. If this person doesn't allow what comes naturally to his body in response with emotional clarity, he's not protected. Jean is sharing. There we go. 46. He has the love of the body, 46, and the unconditional love, 25, as personality, sun, and earth, and he is the sixth line. Yeah. So how would we translate that into some advice or guidance? We know that the sun, earth, is in an undefined state. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. Crystallized conditioning. What would you share as a sentence? Let's go back to sentences and phrases that you might make a statement or a question, consideration, a factor for will to process with regards to soothing the not self purpose, or maybe shattering it, what have you. Getting him away from thinking that he has to play some role for others and coming back home to his authority. What would you share? We know that with the 70% personality, sun, earth, in an undefined state, he's going to be very attracted to people who define his G center for him, his higher self, right? Because that turns it on, sparky electromagnetics potentially, or maybe a compromise. So what is it that you would share? Aha. So Jean is sharing, are you looking for love and direction? Yeah. Do you have role confusion? Is another way I might phrase that. Now let's take it more specifically. And what else can you say besides love? Let's see, go like this. There we go. Here's the themes right there on the page. Not self-question, fixated on finding love and direction, fixated on playing a specific role, presenting a mask, as Selena so astutely put it. This is a brilliant man. His mind is part of his challenge. What else would you share? Does your mind tell you, Robert shares, that you are lost? That would be a big one. I don't know who I am. I feel lost. Yeah, so the mind, there's the mental construct, but the mind has spokespersons inside of all these undefined centers. So we went from number one, now we're at number two. Does your mind tell you that you have to be something specific, that you have to present this face to the world? Does he have that fear of revealing who he really is? Is that something that you might recognize in him, that he might recognize in himself? Mel is sharing. Let me clear this up here. Have you noticed that jumping into commitments without taking the time to see how you really feel tends to lead to frustration? Yeah, jumping into commitments. Excellent keynoting of the not self purpose. And Jess, let's see oh, thank you. Everybody's sharing. Yay. Jess is sharing. Try experimenting more with waiting for things to react to, which could end up being more aligned to you versus jumping into things. Yeah. Yeah. Reactivity. Sometimes in the psychological world, they talk about reaction being a detriment. And that's one of the reasons why we use the word respond, because it speaks to the authoritative process. Responding over time, I would say, with clarity. And so we might need to describe what clarity is as a body sensation. Robert is sharing, does sharing your life with others provide you some clarity on yourself? That's really speaking to also what he's going through in his Chiron return. That is an excellent statement right now for him to be able to, and we know that these are sharing gate activations as well. Oni is sharing, I wonder about his struggles with honesty regarding his sexuality or his fluidity with sexuality. Yeah, it's hard to tell because that's such a very personal thing. Although, as we know, people who are famous tend to live their life in the spotlight. There's all kinds of paparazzi and people not only projecting, but also, stirring up things. So we never know. Never know. Robert is sharing, do you feel like you don't know enough? I don't know enough. Do you feel like I don't know enough? No, says the not self mind. I'm certain of what I know. Totally. In the not self, yeah. Inside, fear of being found out. Let me click on that here. Fear of being found out. So that is more up there rather than the G, but I'll take that. Jean is sharing, it is important that you are in the right place with the right people. There we go. Excellent. Speaking to the truth of an undefined G center. Thank you, Jean. Are you sticking with the wrong people? Love the terminology, sticking with the wrong people and afraid to change. Yeah, because I love that you brought this up, Jean, because what tends to happen in the not self mind's purpose is that they play out these old roles trying to fixate on a specific, behavior or way of being that gets them what they want, rather than allowing them to be themselves. They play that role or front. So the front man, he does a lot of leadership roles. I've got to prove that I'm courageous, that I'm the big boss, that I'm a very alpha male. This is in a group of people. This definitely does have a lot of dominant energy that other people look to for guidance with regards to its tribal. It's part of the OC16, meaning large group. This is part of a very powerful engagement of energy that he's got there. So thank you for sharing that. And yes, because it's his only channel. Exactly. Robert is sharing the 48 would be a fear of inadequacy. Absolutely. Inadequacy with regards to solutions. So as a child, let's go back to his childhood for a while. This is an environment where the collective good is not being served. Why? Because look at 6th line in the first 30 years operated as a 3. Not that you go and read the 3rd line, but that there were mistakes being made with regards to the solutions that he was around. And a lot of inadequacy and his, I checked real briefly just to show you guys here to see his advanced stuff. We're looking at somebody who is security perspective and also fear motivated. So very intelligent human being and very much attuned to looking for security on the physical plane. An open G center, yes. Do you notice, Naraya is sharing, do you notice that you really seem to change depending on who you are around? Excellent, absolutely. That you can play different roles with different people, that you can morph. Chameleons, great actors on defined Gs, great flexible actors, I should say. It's not that you have to have an undefined DG to be a great actor. Robert is sharing, does being an actor provide you with a way to show your strength? Your strength. Yeah, strength. Courage, wisdom of what to be courageous about. Not that knee-jerk reaction of I have to go first, I have to be first, I have to be competitive, I have to be the best, all that stuff, right? In the not self. Here's Klaus. Do you use your determination to find your identity? Do you tend to say yes to too many things out of determination and dedication? So determination and dedication. I might do it one at a time rather than adding those two things in, only because this is a pure generator and we need to just do it one step at a time. Anytime you see any generator with nothing going to the throat with regards to a motor, this is somebody who needs a step-by-step process. Not that they're not intelligent, but just giving them one thing to focus on at a time. Yeah, so one word, one concept, one phrase, what have you. but great recognitions, Klaus. Very good. Melanie is sharing all nodes in undefined centers, by the way. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Let's discuss what that means, because that is a big one. Melanie is reminding us of the trauma and the spirit being broken. So in rave psychology, we learn that when somebody has, this is the way that Rod described it, that when somebody has undefined centers where the nodes are, that there's a tendency that the life shows that the spirit can be broken. When we use the term spirit in human design, the spirit of a being, we know that the spirit is the frequency. So their satisfaction being broken. Why? Because they are very susceptible to what's going on in the world around them, the people around them, in order to have a continuity to their experience. So things breaking down, things falling apart, having to rebuild yourself over and over and over again, either your life, maybe your persona, maybe your family relationships, the experiences that you have. It's different for different people. So yeah, with regards to, it can be very destabilizing is a good word for this, destabilizing to have undefined, and this is a powerful path that he's walking, right? So we have the deep insecurities, fear of, inadequacy, and also an environment that is designed to be where he is right now. And let's see if we can run this. We'll find out exactly what the date that this really happened for him. Let's pull a Uranus opposition. There we go. Okay, the date that this happened, that he made this shift, was 2010. So if anybody was interested in going and looking, what happened to Will at 2010? Did life start to get more challenging in 2010? 6 lines. If you're not obeying your priority of being your own authority, especially when you get to 50, you can really start to experience a lot of challenges. But when we shift gears into this part of the life, oh boy, an environment where there is deliberate and persistent interference. We know the gate 21 is the gate of control. So he's designed to fulfill his transpersonal karma in a place that is filled with people who are attempting to be in control of things, right? So he is designed to be there, healing for himself first, because he is a generator, but also being a role model of healing to others. So there's an environment where there's a lot of pain. We know that this is the heart muscle. What else is it? Do you guys remember? With regards to a muscle in the body, besides the heart itself, there's another muscle in the jaw, hint, hint. This is the masseter muscle. Yeah, responsible for the temporal mandibular joint. So clenching the teeth, having, if you try to exert control over someone without having this be correct for you, the breaking of your heart. Let's see, I'm lost. Let me go back up. I got to catch up with my comments. Thank you so much for sharing. See, one of the reasons I'm doing this with you is not only to provide you practice, but to show how brilliant you are already at recognizing these things, and how logical of a framework the human design system is, that it's learnable, that you can do this too. Oni is sharing, that's why I am focusing on him feeling authentic. Yes, authenticity is very important for a 6. Authentic with regards to sexual expression. Open G only adds to the covering up, which would be painful and make him want to prove his manliness as a husband and a father. Yeah, great recognition, Oni. Sarah is sharing, I would imagine that acting also allows him to safely express emotions while being distanced from them at the same time socially. That is a fabulous recognition. I love that. Absolutely. I remember being on stage pretending to be a teenager, unregulated, dysregulated, with a psychologist at one of her events, parenting events. And it absolutely does. It can be very cathartic to allow yourself to express those emotions that aren't safe maybe to express with the actual mother. So my mother with my relationship with my mother was strained because, of course, the not undefined emotional system that she had and the challenging upbringing. So me playing that woman's daughter, allowing myself to display the angst of teenage life, and then having people come up to me afterwards going, oh my God, you had me believe that. You had me in tears. It was just really amazing. So absolutely being able to play that role on the stage, definitely a wonderful recognition there. Doc is sharing, do you provoke people even when you know you shouldn't? Haha, the mind. I should not provoke that person. And yet, what do we have here? The moon is inconsistent. It's an unconscious driving force. So provoking the friends, actually correct if in response and emotionally clear about it, but then the mind is shocked, perhaps. I didn't mean to provoke them. Why did that happen? Excellent recognition, Doc. Mel is sharing, commenting on the notes again. How much has his trauma conditioned him to become more skilled and rise to the top? I don't know how to percentage it, but I imagine because of, you said how much of the conditioning, trauma conditioning, we know that there's trauma anywhere we have an undefined center. It's hard to really say. I remember Ross saying, I forget which one it is, you might remember, maybe the guy that created Microsoft, Bill Gates, yes. Bill Gates would not be a billionaire if he didn't have an undefined heart center. That undefined heart center, little bugaboo there, it really drives people. And this is the channel of money, right? So I can prove myself if I have enough money, yeah, to be able to have to prove what a guy who's grown a pair, what a good man I am. Now, 6 lines tend to be altruistic. And when I looked at his Wikipedia, I noticed that he has given away money to charities. And that's a benefit of being able to be wealthy on the material plane, to be able to provide for the tribe. We know he's tribal. So giving to causes, it's actually something, as long as it's satisfying, yeah, selfhood. Doing it out of, anything that's not in alignment with regards to what he's here for. If we can go back to the psychology for a moment, I know you guys aren't learning psychology, but it's fun for me to kind of take a peek and see what might really be driving him. If he is from this perspective, taking this perspective of wanting and being very needy about it, graspy, maybe even greedy. If there's a signature or the sensation, body sensation of dissatisfaction, frustration, despite all the accolades and all the money, then I would say significantly no. Does that make sense? So let's go back. Doc is sharing, this all seems so complex with regards to supporting him and returning to his authentic expression. Perhaps asking Will to begin to listen to his full body sounds of yes and no would be a basic beginning step. Yeah, absolutely. So, Will, what would you guys say to Will with regards to helping him know when he can make a decision that he trusts? Body sensations, what would you share? Those of you who are generative, particularly. And I know that there's a delay, so let me just check and see what's going on over here. Okay, don't see anything yet. Okay. So Doc, I'll come back to that. Looks like we're just waiting for some comments to come in. While I'm doing that, let me share some more comments that are being shared in the group. So Oni is being discussed with regards to Mel is recognizing Oni's statement earlier. Totally, I could see the 27. the 5, the 29, contributing to that as well. Manliness as a husband and father, provider, etc. Selena has some research to share with us with regards to 2010. In 2010, Will helped his son successfully release the Karate Kid movie. Interesting. This success led them next to taking on the roles of father and son in the movie After Earth, which failed in the box office soon after his son asked for a teen emancipation. Oh my God, Selena, is that the child that kept getting forceful kisses? I mean, I couldn't believe how long on screen in front of talk show hosts, in front of the world. So Mel is sharing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Can't remember the names. The older one. I think it's the older one. Mel is sharing, but I meant regarding the 16, okay, and the 45 as mental conditioners to the nodal gates and how that factors into his stage of life. Sorry, I lost the thread. Would you like to share a full comprehensive recognition for us?
Hear me?
Hi, yeah, there you are.
Hi. So it was just in terms of the nodes being in undefined centers and like how reliant he is, not reliant, but how much others play a role in that, and how the 16 being the harmonic to the 48 and the 45 being the harmonic to the 21, and those themes of the mind thinking I need to be more skilled and I have to rise to the top, and how much that played a role in like everything that he went through growing up, almost being like, I got to be a warrior with the 51. I got to become more skilled. I have to rise to the top. So that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime we have those gate activations and centers that are pointing somewhere, which is where the energy wants to go, and this being part of his not self purpose that's going on there. Absolutely. Great recognition. And Naraya is sharing it was the same child, Jaden. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So that must have been a shock. Yeah. Because I imagine he wouldn't knowingly want his child to emancipate. I mean, that's a pretty big sign to the world that the child is not happy. I personally emancipated myself when I was late 15, about to turn 16, quit school, left the house. And a famous person having their child do that kind of sends a message of family discord, or at least relationship discord. Yeah. And nobody who is in the public spotlight I would imagine would be, boasting about how their child emancipated themselves from the family. So going back to the answer to Doc's question, thank you so much, Jean, sharing. You need time, yes, to digest your emotions and wait until you are emotionally clear without being so nervous. Nervousness, great signpost. Yeah, body nervousness is a signpost not correct for you to act. Nervousness feels like, share some more things that what nervousness feels like. For those of you who are emotional, particularly, you might also, because digest with regards to emotions, that's more of a human design kind of jargony thing that we talk about. When you first come to human design, you talk about what digest your emotions. That's not really common speak. Yeah. So how would you explain that? I would love to hear. Doc is sharing. How does your body feel when you make a decision that is satisfying to you? Okay, Doc, can you answer that question with a yes or no? So we would share one point and see if we can get a response. When you hear that human being, then you know you're on track. Yeah. So you're looking to elicit the responses by actually giving some kind of content for it to digest, process, feel. Yes. Thank you, Nina. Digest equals process, feel. We know that the emotional frequency happens over a wave. Everything with regards to the emotional strengths or channels that are there. Let me just show all of them. Here's all the emotional channels specifically. There we go. All of them need time to go over, process, go over what actually is true for them. So what do we say within human design? There's truth in the now over here. There's what going on over here? Awareness function. No truth in the now. Yes, for emotional beings over time. So patience, clarity over time. What does clarity feel like in a body? I haven't yet seen some body sensations from those of you who are actually emotional or sacral. There we go. Agane is sharing calm. Now, body feeling calm. What else? Body sensations. I'm looking for body sensations, not the mind's interpretation of what it means. So I'll just wait because this is really big. This is a huge key. How do we body feeling light? There we go, Naraya. Lightness. What else is a body sensation that we can attune will to? At ease, peace, zen. Body stillness. He has the gate of stillness. So yeah, stillness in the physical form. Comfort is another body sensation. What else? See, here, let's flip it. Okay, I'm going to flip it for you because I'm going to show you how easy it is to talk about when it's not correct. What is a body sensation when it doesn't feel correct? Oh, and just with regards to the good stuff, the feeling of clicking into place and a natural hum. Yeah, a humming along, a frequency that is resonant. Remember, when we have sacral connected to other centers, there's a resonance there that makes a sound. Okay, so let's go on the flip side. Here they're coming, pouring in. Tight, restrictive, tension, heaviness, density, frustration. Hello, signpost of the body not in alignment, feeling stuck, feeling limited, nose to the grindstone, those types of things. Sometimes it's hard to breathe when it's a no, when your body is rejecting that course of action, feeling constricted, restricted. Jess is sharing digestive sensations. Yes. Yes. Drop in the pit of the stomach, gut issues. Yeah. Slud. There's this terminology of slud where you have to go to the bathroom. Some of the more unsavory, not fun body needs for the toilet, we'll just say. Naraya is sharing hard to move forward whatever the decision is about. Yeah, the body doesn't move. And yet the mind goes, but we have to prove ourselves in order to pretend, in order to be something that we're not, in order to attract attention so that we can be safe. We've got to get rid of this very quickly. We've got to do now. We have to act now. Mind says, I have to do it now. I can't afford to wait. And so what happens? Trembling. Excellent, Agane. The body's trembling because the mind is at odds with what the body knows. The body says, wait, and yet the mind pushes. And so Naraya is sharing no energy to do. Remember, this is generative. This is about the world of generating life, creating life. So no energy to do. When correct, the body has energy for it. So now let's flip it back. Lightness, vibrance, energy, joy, vitality. You can see that he has the gate of vitality. Yeah. That stillness translates into clear action, not from a place of his mind thinking yes to proof, but from the satisfied place of this is what I stand for. Yeah. Not from a place of neediness or trying to anticipate what other people want. Remember, he said, I became a people pleaser. Tribal people, yes, they are about supporting or serving others. That is who they are for themselves. But it has to come back to, is this satisfying for me? Is this satisfying for my energy? Does my energy support me in this being who I am for myself, not who I am for others, in order to ensure my safety and security? So attempting, let's go back up here. the mind thinks it will do. Attempting, this person needs me, or wants, I should say, wants me and needs this. So I'm going to initiate in order to get my safety and security, get rid of this stress and pressure. Now, we haven't talked much about the mental stuff going on up there. What would you say to help resolve the not self purpose, to help shatter the mind's hold? Let's combine these two together and give me a sentence, a phrase, a question that would help somebody recognize that this mind inside of their head about themselves, it's always thinking about what and initiating from what. Okay. I'm so glad that this is awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day, Robert. What does the mind say? Oh my gosh, that hour went by really fast. No wonder you have to go. I had no idea. Okay, so Naraya is sharing uncertainty and thinking about questions and things that don't matter to him. Beautiful. Always remember, don't matter to you. So try to answer everybody else's questions. Another way of putting it, feeling losing focus. Not knowing what to think. Jean is sharing not knowing what to think and what inspires you. Yeah, not knowing what to think. Looking for inspiration. Is this supposed to be interesting? Remember, the totally open center is not knowing. So not knowing what is interesting, not knowing what is inspiring, just simply running down every rabbit hole and attempt to chase inspiration that doesn't really matter to you and your purpose. Very much a part of not being aligned. So Selena is sharing, have you always felt the need to be certain and answer everyone else's questions? Great combination. Now, add for me the mental conditioners. Those of you who are in analyst training, mental conditioners. Selena sharing, has mental pressure and physical pressure to be certain. Pressure, physical pressure to be active, get things done. And rushing to get things done ever crippled you. So instead of going to these two at the same time, I'm going to say again, don't try to go too many, like this is a totally different concept. Mental pressure is different from physical pressure. So I would just do one thing at a time, only because that's me personally, not that you're doing it wrong, honey, but that to simplify. Anytime you see a pure sacral generator, simplify one thing at a time, one step at a time, one clear-cut question at a time. Now, if you overwhelm this human being with too many questions over and over and over again, that can confuse them. There's the word I was looking for, confuse. Does that make sense? Good. Okay, so Agane is sharing, feeling pressure to make sense of past experiences and insecure about knowing. Yeah, I would add confused, wanting to resolve the pressure of confusion. 64 is about confusion. And insecure about explaining your knowing, what you know, your insights. Yeah, we know that that's about insights. Your insights being rejectionable. So the mind would constantly process, I've got to blurt this out in order to make sense of what happened in the past. So you can actually see him doing that. I couldn't listen to much of it, but you can see him doing that, going over his life, yeah, attempting to make sense of the experiences of his life. And we can see that he's got a storyteller channel there. So this is correct for him as far as what his path is on. Sharing the mistakes of the past, that's the way that he's framing his seeing now, layered over on top. And then let's go here. But with a right mind, it has to be pulled out of him. Oh, wait, I missed the first part. Naraya is sharing, he might think that if he wasn't so confused, he could clearly explain what he knows. but with a right mind, it has to be pulled out of him, which is why he sounds so intelligent in interviews. One reason, absolutely. And this man is intelligent. He's a first color, which is very, very intelligent. Yeah, getting to the bottom of the love of the body. Remember, he's talking about taking care of his body, right, on his YouTube channels. That's where his sun shines, love of the body. This is the realm of bonding. So his purpose fulfilled through duality and bonding. First and most important bonding this man needs to have is with himself, who he is for himself, satisfied with himself, not about what other people think of him, but coming home to his emotional clarity, which we know is a comfort and ease, a lightness, a vibrance, an energy that moves things forward. Not that it's going to happen all the time, but he has the consistent generator hum that if he's doing what he loves, he's going to feel satisfied and it's going to feel like nothing else. It will give him the right experiences, people in his life, and things to play with, process. Okay. Let's see. There's one more question here. Doc, someone is asking, what is your DDP designation? DDP stands for differentiation degree practitioner. There we go. I became a certified holistic analyst, rave psychologist, and primary health system practitioner. Collectively, we call that DDP for the differentiation degree program. Holistic analyst is after that, and then also, therefore, 2 is the variable teacher. But DDP stands for somebody who's investigated and studied into the deeper layers of the Maya mechanics that are there. Okay, it's been an hour. I would love to hear if there's any final questions, comments, sharing with regards to what we've taken a look at today. Was it helpful? Interesting? We just barely scratched the surface of what's going on here. These are always helpful. Thank you all. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Glad to have you here, Mari, sharing very eye-opening. Love today. Will is a great one to review. Yeah. You're welcome, Jean. So glad it was helpful. Thank you so much. Glad it was great and wonderful, fun. Yay. Awesome. I find it fun too. So if you find it fun, I did have a request that we continue on with these. We're not going to make them open to everybody, but just to the professionals in training who are going through classes so that we can get a little bit more granular with the techniques that we're learning about and not so wide and specific, or wide and not specific. So we'll continue on with this journey. If you have people that you want to look at and you are a student, please do feel free to share about who they are before we have our study groups. You're welcome. I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you. If you want to join us, humandesign.live, if you're not already there, that is where we have these professional study groups. Until next time, thank you. Bye for now.